Well, Steve has just told us, which something I knew, that he opposed Trump's tariffs on steel and aluminum. He opposed those taxes. He didn't like them, Steve. That's great that you feel that way. And yet, he's asking us to trust this bloviating ignoramus with these policies. He's on the horns of a dilemma. Steve told us that he used to agree with Milton Friedman, but guess who convinced him that Milton Friedman, the same bloviating ignoramus. Steve, come back to us. Come back to us. Look, Steve, the reason why I applauded, I mentioned the World Trade Organization. I'm willing to go with that managed trade business. Milton Friedman said, we need a constitutional amendment. A constitutional amendment will read, Congress should make no law, period, charging, period. He wasn't an anarchist, Steve, you know that. Come on, you like that. All right. That shall make no law which will impose a tax on imports or will subsidize exports, period. No law doing that, and we can become a beacon of freedom to the world. And we're rich enough, and it will benefit our economy to do that. And now Steve was persuaded by Trump that Milton Friedman was wrong. Well, too bad for Steve. You don't have to be persuaded by Trump the way Steve was. And now, why did I say that? If Steve, that's why I said if you don't want to deal with the World Trade Organization, fine. That all I said was that we are the delinquents when it comes to the World Trade Organization, not the Chinese. The Chinese, obviously, partly because they're weaker, they have it in their interest to defend us. Now, Steve also wants us to bleed for the Apple stock. Apple stock, by the way, I looked it up, it was at 4.6 billion capitalization in the year 2000, and now it's at $1 trillion. So if the Apple stockholders want me to pay these ridiculous tariff taxes in order to defend their rights to have more stores in China, I will only tell them as a potential philanthropist, there are other people in greater need than they for my philanthropy. Steve wants us to stand up to these guys. The fact of the matter is that we are a powerful economy. And again, Steve seems to be caught on the horns of a dilemma. He himself knows. He himself has the insight to recognize that a centrally planned economy like China isn't really stealing our intellectual property. Yeah, they're poaching on some of the Apple stores. Well, again, I'll wait for Apple stock to go back to 4.6 billion in capitalization before I start worrying about that overly. Before anybody can ask me that the government has a right to violate my rights by taxing me with a trade war. And then Steve is telling us on top of that if China doesn't abide by this ridiculous promise to buy 200 billion more of our goods, which is going to be a 45% increase per year, which was obviously just, what was that agreement? It was clearly just Trump wanted something off the table. And then on top of that, what else does Trump wanted something off the table? He wanted this trade war no longer hanging over his head. We've got a phase one. He's going to claim tonight in the State of the Union address, maybe he had Steve help him on that passage, and we're winning the trade war against China, and we're going to be on to victory with our phase one. But it's not going to work out. The Chinese cannot ratchet up 45%, and that's managed trade. So I want to say to Steve, come back to us. Come back to us as the pure, great free trader you are, because we need you. You're a talented man. Well, what else? I mean, again, amazingly, Steve then disavowed the Wall Street Journal editorial that summarized 6 different studies. The Wall Street Journal editorial said they keep piling up and they keep saying the same thing from every reputable source. And now Steve thinks that Steve has actually told you, maybe I can't say this crazy thing, that the 20%, 25% tariffs would have been imposed on the Chinese. No, they're imposed on us, but of course they're also hurt. It means that fewer goods are being sold. The Chinese didn't want to ratchet up their price, but it means that we are paying big time for those tariffs. Our rights are being violated, and there is a better way. The better way is negotiate through the World Trade Organization, clean up your act, because it is possible to do that. Or the even better way is come back to us, Steve, and become a radical for a change and advocate Milton Friedman's view that we have nothing to gain and everything to lose by not being a beacon to the free world and simply saying we have open borders with respect to trade. Thank you very much.